Well, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here with you all today. As Joan said, I'm Jennifer Collins, and I am a pastoral counselor at Shepherd's Staff Ministry here in Richmond. I've been there 3 years, and prior to that, 14 years prior, I was a healthcare chaplain at CJW Medical Center, and my last 5 years there, I was actually director of pastoral care. So I had the privilege of walking alongside people, a lot of people that lived with chronic illnesses, whatever it might have been called. But it's a pleasure to be here today and talk to you all. So when Cynthia asked you all what you wanted me to share today, she gave me 5 different topics. And so when I looked at the list, I felt that there are 2 specific topics that were more in my area of expertise. One is how to stay healthy mentally during these crazy times. And then the other one was managing chronic illnesses in everyday lives. Now, when I think about that, I am not going to come from a physical perspective. That is not my area of expertise. So when I consider managing chronic illness in everyday life, I'm coming more from an emotional and mental perspective. So I want to ask everybody first, and you can either chat or unmute yourself and tell me, but I want to get a temperature check of everybody today. So where are you emotionally or mentally today? Are you in a good space, or yeah, or nah?
Very good.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
In a so-so state. Now, especially after hearing all the about the side effects of the second shot.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
So a little leery, huh? Okay.
I'm so as well.
Okay. I appreciate your honesty to speak
I'm
with
great.
everyone. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm great.
You're great. You're great, but having a few lingering side effects.
Doesn't bother me at all. Part of life.
Well, I have a friend who I actually used to be a former patient of mine when I was in the hospital, and she has lived with a chronic illness for the past 18 years. And it was kind of interesting because when COVID hit last March and shut our world down that we knew it, a dear friend of hers called her and said to her, you know, what we are wrestling with, you have been living with for 18 years. Because she has a chronic peg tube. She's not really able to leave the house a lot. And if she does, obviously for not long periods of time. So it was really an awakening for her friend to realize, wow, the life that I'm living, you've been living for 18 years. And so they got a good chuckle out of it. Honestly, it wasn't any finger pointing. It was actually kind of a good moment of chuckle, saying, welcome to my world, pretty much is what she was saying. So when we think about how to stay mentally healthy during these crazy times and how to navigate the journey most effectively, I want to start with a story about how to. And some of you all may have heard this story before. It's about a psychologist who was teaching a class on stress management. And she held up a glass of water. And everybody assumed she was going to ask the question, is this glass half empty or half full, right? Because we're used to that question. But instead, she said, how much does this glass of water weigh? So she stumped everybody. And she said, the absolute weight of the glass doesn't really matter. What matters is how long I hold it. She said, if I hold it for a minute, an hour, or a day, the weight does not change. But the longer I hold it, the heavier it becomes. And then to make her point about stress management, she said, and I'm going to quote her, the stresses and worries in life are like the glass of water. You think about them for a minute, nothing really happens. You think about them a little bit longer, they begin to hurt a little bit deeper. But then if you think about them all day long, you ruminate on them, she said you can begin to feel emotionally paralyzed. Sometimes mentally paralyzed, like you just don't feel like doing anything. And so the moral of the story is remember to put the glass down. Now, we all know that is a lot easier said than done, isn't it? But it's a nice reminder, and I think it's kind of a nice imagery to consider, okay, wait a minute, this stress, I've thought about this stress for a little bit too long. Doesn't matter what the stress is, I need to put it down for a little bit. So, and give ourselves permission to simply put it down. So I ask you all, is there anything right now that you feel that you're holding on to, that you are just really having a hard time putting down? Whether it's a disappointment, whether it's a shattered dream, whether it is just flat out frustration, could be anger, just whatever it might be, really doesn't matter. I don't want to put you in a box. So is there anything that you're really struggling to let go of and simply put down?
You want that, Jennifer?
Do what?
You want sharing, or you're just wanting
No,
us?
no, I'm asking y'all. If anybody wants to share, you don't have to share, but you're welcome to share. I'd love to. Yeah, I want this to be interactive.
Well, I would like to share. My mother passed away very quickly because of COVID. And we have been my brothers and I have been in the process of cleaning her house out for a couple of months now. And I struggle with the loss and the fact that she had so much stuff that we are dealing with and trying to find new homes for. So,
Teresa, that is hard because that's layers of the loss, layers of the grief. So I would encourage you, give yourself permission to periodically put the glass down, walk away and then come back, walk away, then come back.
well, and Joan can tell you, I have been trying to do that. I just came back from Florida spring break, and it's just such a relief to, in that case, I'm fortunate enough to actually walk away from it, and it is behind me. But I came back to town yesterday, and before I went to bed, I was already starting to feel overwhelmed again. So, but I keep saying this too shall pass.
But your self-awareness is excellent. And that's that's a perfect example for all of us. Because loss is hard. You don't put the loss down, but it's crucial in the midst of loss to give yourself permission to step away. Yeah. Others. Hey, Dottie.
You're muted, Dottie.
There you go.
I'm struggling hard with trying to get rid of stuff so I can downsize and move to a simpler living. And I just cannot make myself get rid of stuff. It's terrible.
Dottie, you know what I encourage people is I encourage them one goal a day. Because it's kind of like Teresa said, when we think of whether it's an apartment or a house or a condominium, wherever you live, and you think, oh my gosh, I can't do this, because we look at the big picture. You know, I facilitate a grief group at my church, and I tell people, I said, just one goal a day. That's all you got to do, one goal a day. And then you do this for each day, the goals add up, and so we begun to
Okay,
accomplish that.
I'll work on that.
It is one goal.
One goal.
And Dottie, I will say there are people that can help you with that if you want help.
Yeah.
You need to call Teresa, honestly, Dottie. She has some fabulous connections.
Oh, really?
Yeah, here's another thought, Dottie. I love what Jennifer shared. And here's plan B. Plan B is to dedicate, like, I don't know, pick a number, 15 minutes a day and say, I'm going to dedicate 100% of my energy for 15 minutes a day and figure out what your starting point is going to be. And don't get sidetracked. Just focus on that 15 minutes and what you can get accomplished in 15 minutes. The reason I chose to share that is I was able to get my life organized at home that got a lot out of control. So I have gone through every closet, every drawer in my house, and I have done this faithfully for over a year, and it works.
Yeah, I'm behind, way behind.
It's okay. Don't focus
I was
on
going to say, it's okay, Dottie, don't beat yourself.
okay.
There's no judgment at all, because judgment pulls us back. So please don't judge yourself. Any of you, if you're struggling with something, please do not judge yourself.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think not being able to attend meetings with this whole group is a problem too.
Absolutely. It is. I agree.
You know, it's interesting when George is what you're saying and what you said, Teresa and Dottie, and even Joan, what you just shared is anytime we are struggling to put whatever our glasses down, not every time, not 100% of the time, but I would beg to differ that the majority of the time there is a level of loss there. There's a component of some type of loss. Some people might call it grief, depending on what the loss is, but there is always some level of loss that you deal with. You know, Dottie, in your case, I'm assuming that you enjoy where you live, and so the idea of moving,
Yeah,
there's your loss. You know, the
Mhm.
idea of going through cherished things.
yeah,
Yeah. So, and then George not being able to attend the meetings. I mean, there's a level of loss there. So, there's often the component of loss. So I think the big question too, in regards to putting your glass down, is what have you done in the past that has helped you to navigate when you have felt so overwhelmed with things? And I call them your tools in your toolbox. So be willing to pick up some of the tools that have helped you in the past and run with them. For those that haven't helped you or maybe no longer help you, don't worry about it. Get some new tools. So Richard Rohr is a Franciscan friar, and he has this, I think, this wonderful saying. He said that he says there are three things: there's order, there's disorder, and there's reorder.
Mm.
And this is the hard part. He said there is no non-stop flight from order to reorder. He said you must experience the disorder in order to live a healthier reorder. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like too much disorder. I am quite type A. My family would say very type A. Very organized. I like structure. I like to know what's next. I'm a planner. And so when you're telling me that I'm going to have to live in some sense of disorder or not know too much moving forward, I've got to really get a grip. So, but each one of you, when we think about putting our glass down, do you see this sense of disorder in the midst of it? So again, be creative of how you can navigate that disorder, knowing that you will eventually get to a healthier reorder. It just will take time. And again, it's Dottie, it's like what I said, put one goal and it's put one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and that's all you got to do. Now, we all know that this is a lot easier said than done. Please don't hear me saying, oh, piece of cake, just do it. But one of the key components that I really want to talk about today, the reason I want to hone in on this is because I believe that we are all empowered in some way, shape, or form. And there are a lot of attributes that go into how you're empowered, why you're not empowered in certain areas. That's not what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is the hope in the midst of the disorder, the hope when we feel like we cannot let that glass down. Because sometimes what do? We just grin and bear it and we keep pushing through, right? And I wouldn't really encourage that coping strategy. Sometimes we have to, but I would encourage you to not stay there long term. I like the idea because I feel like there's a lot of release in this, is when we acknowledge our reality. Kind of like a minute ago when I asked you guys, where are you struggling to put the glass down? Or even at the very beginning when I said, let's get a temperature check today. Where is everybody? You all are naming your reality. And when you name your reality, you name the emotions that go with it. And when you do that, it automatically decreases some of the emotional potency within you. So you're empowered. Doesn't mean we have to, does not mean we like what I have to, like, if I am really struggling and I'm like, oh, I'm struggling. Golly, this is hard. I don't like to admit it, right? Because I'm type A. I like my order, I like my plan, and my plan may not be working. But if I name my reality, it does take some of the potency, the emotional potency out of it. So it automatically gives me a sense of reorder, even in the midst of continual disorder. Another word that I like to call for disorder is also dis-ease. And I want to jump back to March of 2020. We all remember, I think it was March 18th is when the governor gave his mandate, pretty much shut things down. And at that time, as you can imagine, I had a lot of people calling me, a lot of different organizations and churches going, what the flip is going on? We need help. We don't know how to navigate this. And I thought this was beautiful timing. In the Harvard Business Review, there was an article that called that discomfort you're feeling is grief. It's a powerful article. If you haven't read that article, I encourage you to read it. And some of the things that this article spoke to, and each one of you, I think, will be able to parallel what you were living with in the midst of your disorder. One thing they said was we grieve, and again, I'm thinking about last year, but put it in today's time frame. We grieve freedoms that we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. You lose a sense of ease of daily life from what you had prior, right? And you can't do things as fast. Maybe you can't do things as efficiently as you had wanted to. Maybe you can't even do as much as you used to. So you see the parallels? Another thing, and George, you said it, was basically a loss of connection. You know, I mean, I'm so glad, I'm very grateful for technology. Please hear me say that I'm thrilled for technology, but I would much rather right now be sitting around the dining room table, eating some dessert or something with an afternoon cup of tea with all of you all. So yes, we're connecting, but there's a little lack of connecting and structure in the midst of this. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what, you all? We call it disorder. We can call it dis-ease, but it goes back to what the article in the Harvard Business Review called it. This discomfort you're feeling is grief. Did you guys ever think about calling it grief? It is grief. And so when you think of what I said a minute ago about why you could grin and bear it, but that really is not the best coping strategy. to name it. Because once in a while, this grief is triggered. I have my youngest daughter who's just turned 28, lives in Canada. And while she loves it up there and I'm thrilled for her, she's happy as a clam up there, it's a long way away. Now, I appreciate technology, but when her government says I can't come into her country and see her, guess what's triggered in me? My mama heart. It's like, excuse me? Nobody tells me I can't go see my daughter. Yeah, but you see what I'm saying? So I have to say, wait a minute, Jennifer. Right now you're grieving, you miss her. Okay, cry. Have some tears and get back up. Does that see what I'm saying? So when you grieve, I'm going to repeat it. When you grieve the freedoms you've lost, when you grieve your level of ease that maybe you used to be able to live with, we grieve our loss of connection, we grieve certain structures. It doesn't mean you grieve them and they're done. So when they're re-triggered, just give yourself permission to name it. Then process it out emotionally, cry, whatever you need to do. And then there's another one that I want to focus on that, to me, I think is actually just kind of the icing on the cake when it comes to grief, is the possibility or our feeling of uncertainty. How many of you today, regardless of what it's for, are feeling a sense of uncertainty? I know Don's feeling uncertain with his, getting his second shot. We all have a sense of uncertainty, don't we? And uncertainty has the potential to cause a deep-rooted stress within us. Okay. And stress is what? That glass. Okay. So how do we deal with uncertainty? For Lent, I was reading this hard book called 40 Days of Decrease. And I just want to share a quote from this. It's not necessarily faith-based quote, but it's just got some really good points about uncertainty. She said, uncertainty is quite revealing. The unknown triggers different reactions in different hearts and exposes our defaults. Ambiguity reveals where we instinctively go to feel the illusion of security again in response to a yet unnamed but imminent storm. Some of us hide, some of us run, some of us live in denial, some escape into fictional worlds, some feast, some famine, some stake out your territory. So I'm not asking you to answer this, but think about this. What does uncertainty trigger within you? And where do you go for that illusion of safety and security? What defaults do you gravitate toward when facing the unknown? And she says at the end of the quote, in order to address our uncertainty, we must first befriend mystery. If we can learn to befriend mystery, learn to befriend the unknown, it will help us to feel not as topsy-turvy in the midst of the disorder or the dis-ease that we're feeling. Am I making sense? Something to think about, isn't it? But you're empowered, or where you are empowered is what you do with it when you're triggered. What you do with it when you feel overwhelmed. So I encourage you to name it before you just push it aside and act like it's not there or grin and bear it. So I want to pause for just a minute. Cynthia had said that you all take turns sharing your stories. So Eileen, if it's all right with you, I'm going to pause, let you share, and then when you're done, I'll get back on. I'm going to stay right here, but I'll get back to my presentation. Is that okay?
Yes. I was just deep in thought and trying to comprehend your last statement. I'm not sure I agree with all of it, but
That is
Yeah.
okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like we could have a long discussion about that.
Yeah.
I've recently embraced a not knowing for someone, because I finally realized there's just no way I could know what's going to happen. And it just came to me. And I think when the COVID first started, my reaction was severe anxiety in my body, even though my head, I could rationalize it out, and it wasn't coming from my thoughts. It was, I actually had a severe reaction. I said, well, I can't live this way. I just told everybody, I said, there's no way my body's not going to be able to stand up to this. And I knew I didn't want to take a pill for it. I wanted to figure out what it was from. So I've actually been working with a healer and uncovering lots of things. And it's been a fabulous awakening year for me amidst all this horrible, completely unnecessary deaths in this whole world, this whole country. I mean, that thought alone just, whew, that is just devastating to me. And how many families and, you know, people I didn't know, and some I did know, that it was just didn't get the help they needed quick enough. That can just tear you apart. But yeah, my name is Eileen Connors. I'll start with that. And I have asthma and COPD, and I've tried to not let that define me. But I do, I'm very interested in learning more about it and ways that it can, since it can't be cured, ways that it can be treated, that so you don't have so many symptoms. I first heard about Breathmatters. We had a speaker in my apartment building. Her name was Kathy. She used to be on the board. She was just a very happy person. And she shared that with everyone. And she came to talk about breathing matters. And so she told us about this group, and I got a few of us to go there, and I'm the only one that stuck with it. That was about 4 years ago. And I'm so glad that it exists. And as Joan started to say, stated earlier, I'm so glad for the board and all the work that they've done. It's amazing. But I got sick, I think, I was trying to remember today, since I had to talk, what I was doing at the time. But I think I didn't get sick till I was almost 60. And then I sort of, the doctor said that I had asthma, and I knew that I didn't have any asthma in my mind, because people that have asthma have these horrible attacks, and I never had any of that. So after I sort of ignored it, and I couldn't figure out how to do the inhaler. I just laughed at it. I said, I don't know why he thinks I have asthma. So finally, after it got worse, I had to get down to brass tacks and accept the fact that I have what's called allergic asthma, and one doctor said I'm allergic to the universe. And at 65, I said, well, not really, because I was still there. So I changed doctors after that, because that certainly wasn't true. But so I take Symbicort for my steroid twice a day, morning and night. And then I take Combivent, which is an inhaler that I take about every 5 hours. And then at night I have oxygen. And when those things weren't working for me, I got introduced to Xolair, which are injections that you take that literally is a substance injected into you that literally takes the inflammation from your lungs and removes it. so that I'm able to breathe most of the time. And I'm even able to walk as long as a mile. And hopefully we'll get further along with that. So those I get every 2 weeks. I get the maximum dose. There's a test you take. I forget the initials of it, but it's a blood test. And most people, it's a net for the allergies. Most people score, the average is 100, and my score was 600. So I'm kind of off the charts with so now that sort of told me why I never wanted to go into shopping or department stores because of all the chemical smells and things. But at any rate, with the Xolair, my asthma and my COPD, no one says to me, how's your COPD? I don't know if the rest of you who have COPD has what the doctor says to you. Everybody always says to me, how's my asthma? So I'm pretty sure that's the greater part of my breathing problems, which are under control. And I just went last month to my pulmonologist, and he doesn't want to see me for 6 months. And my internal medicine doctor doesn't want to see me for a year. So that was really exciting. And I feel very grateful for that, extremely grateful. And I do think that, along with others, even my doctors think that because of the mask, we didn't get our usual colds and flus and bronchitis that I usually get every year. So there's some good, lots of good in some ways has come out of that. And I've been walking with friends and with family. I have a beautiful family. I have 3 children and 5 granddaughters. And they bring me lots of joy and laughter and Zoom calls, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. I'll say, I'm not taking that Zoom right now. I didn't even get out of my pajamas today. So there's been some days like that, and they don't care either way. So that's about it. And I love your talk, Jennifer. It's very inspiring.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Eileen, for sharing. And I am glad you're doing, sounds like you're doing better with your internist said, don't come back for a year, and pulmonologist said 6 months. So
Yep.
yeah, and
that was always 3 or 4 months.
wow. Yeah.
So I learned that through this therapy, I've learned that different breathings. I used to not be able to take all my vitamins that I like to take because for some reason I had a blockage about swallowing. Now I can take them all. It's just really opened up in my body. And I think a lot of us in this group we've had a lot of talks about foods that reduce the inflammation or don't cause inflammation. And we've been concentrating on that. And then I've definitely been eating more salmon and salads than I previously did.
I'd love to be on those Zoom calls about the food things. Because I've heard
They'll be in that.
dietitians used to tell me that in the hospital that I was totally unaware of certain, like beans, black beans, all those types of beans that you put in things that they tend to cause inflammation. I thought, what? So yeah.
Well, Don could probably, whoever records for us, we have those recordings when they were on.
Okay.
If we could probably get that for you. I'm
Oh.
not sure. I shouldn't be offering other people's help.
No. We're all about sharing information, aren't we? That's how we can all stay healthier. And then I like what else you said, Eileen, when you talked about how one of the good things that came out of COVID, is the mask wearing, even though sometimes we don't like the masks, but it really has kept us from getting other things that we had otherwise. So I think it's good for all of us to, we'll have those moments when we want to go, this COVID thing, but then we also need to look at the flip side. from time to time and say, there's some good things that have come out of COVID.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that when you have so many terrible things happen, but you have to be grateful for what you've been given.
Well, and I think it's, I don't, what I've always heard, that one helps you see the other one in a different light. Like, because we do see suffering, it makes us appreciate life even more. And so, yeah, this has been a year of suffering. It has been a tremendous year of a lot of people suffering in really some awful, painful ways. And so you're right, just because we say there's some good things that come out of it, we sure as heck don't want to negate or decrease the suffering that has happened, because that has been very real for a lot of people, very much so.
And I think a lot of people have had much more time with each other by working at home and the children going to school at home. They don't have that travel time.
Yeah.
They have so much more family time than they used to.
Yeah.
It's amazing how I see it in my family, how they've gotten along so much better by spending more time together.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody have any questions for Eileen? Feedback?
Queen, I love your outlook. I really like also the way that you've got such a determination about you.
That's pretty true. I do like to gather information.
That you do.
Now, when Eileen was talking, it was either Rose or Carolyn. I saw a little hand go up. Did y'all see that little? I don't know if Rose, was that you? Or Carol? No? Okay. I just don't want to forget somebody.
Yeah, I don't think it was me, but I was thinking about, someone once said, one good thing about the COVID is that people are going to be more sanitized because they'll be washing their hands and stuff. Something good has come out of it, because people that never used to wash their hands will be washing their hands now. I got kind of a chuckle out of that. I thought I'd share it.
I think it's given me an opportunity to really just realize how lucky and blessed I really am, because COVID sort of took away a lot of the things that I sort of take for granted. And, I take it for granted that I'm going to get up every morning and I'm going to go out. I'm going to get a chance to hug people. I'm going to get a chance to converse with people. I'm going to get a chance to educate people, share with people. And it was really taken away. But Zoom permits you to still see the people. But as you all know, I'm such a hugger. And when I came to Breathmatters, I'll never forget that I was told, Jane Shiflett, you do not go around and hug people. And I went, excuse me? I was just like, Jennifer, you gonna tell me I can't hug somebody? Oh, life is good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. I love it. Oh my gosh.
If you guys, as I'm sitting here, if you all hear snoring, that is my almost 13-year-old dog. I just want you to know, sometimes when I'm on Zoom calls, I don't want to go upstairs because I want to be by her so she doesn't get afraid, because she's deaf and almost blind.
Oh.
When I'm home alone, I don't want her to be afraid. So I apologize, just ignore the snoring.
It's all good.
Just FYI, so.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
Jennifer, this is Bill. Where did you say you worked?
At Shepherd Staff Ministry. We're on the corner of Buford and Panetta at St. James.
Shepherd Staff?
Uh-huh.
What's the name of the church?
Our office is actually located at St. Joseph Catholic Church.
Okay, gotcha.
We are not affiliated with them. We just happen to literally rent space from them.
Okay.
And I've also got an office over at First Baptist over on Monument. And then I've got another, which I was over there this morning. And then I've got an office at Bonaire Baptist, but I have not been there because that's a smaller office
Mhm.
because of, but I meet people in person and via Zoom, Google Meet, FaceTime, whatever. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So your company is called Shepherd Staff?
Shepherds apostrophe S Staff Ministry.
Ministry. Okay.
Yeah. 828 Buford Road is our actual address.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's another Shepherd Staff Ministry, I think, in Kansas or Missouri. So if you have to Google it for some reason, that's just FYI. Yeah. So I want to turn a direction for just a little bit because I want to affirm each one of you in one particular area that I know when I did my CPE as a chaplain, I had to have CPE, clinical pastoral education is what that stands for. I had to have 2 years worth of clinical training. And my first unit, I had 4 units of it. My first unit, every one of us struggled with the idea of presence, the power of presence. And I had to do verbatims. You can imagine I had to do a lot of papers. And we would all come back and our supervisor would we would have to read our papers out loud to our group, our cohort. And we would be hurting as growing ministers because we didn't feel like we did anything. It's a big doing. We like to do things. And she would say to us, "Did you show up?" We would always go, "Well, yeah, comma, but." And so she used to say to us, "Forget the comma, but." So I want y'all to answer, who in your life has influenced you most? Why?
You want an answer?
I do.
My mother.
My father.
Mhm.
Anything in particular as to why? I'm sure there's a list, but anything that jumps into your heart immediately.
Yes. To this day, my mother still tells me this. Or when the sisters are together and we're just sharing, she'll always say, "Girls, I heard what you said. What good do you see in that person?" A person that always saw the good in everybody. She could always find it and she would always share it. And to this day, I like my mother, which is a blessing.
I would put my father in. He always helped me find a job somewhere and things to do, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Taught you a strong work ethic, huh?
Yes.
So why, tell me why you said your dad. Anything in particular? You're muted.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, my real father died when I was 2 years old, and my mother remarried when I was about 9 years old to a very wonderful man, a saint of a man, and he was my stepfather. But I think him coming into my life at that time, it was a very critical time in my life, and he actually gave me hope and also taught me how to live and treat people right. And I have a twin brother who's not doing very well, and I think maybe my stepfather showed up for him just a couple of years too late, where the damage had been done of him not having a father. So I've got a twin brother who's in really bad shape, and I'm just blessed that my stepfather showed up early enough in my life so that I could be able to live a fruitful life and not have the demons that have wreaked havoc with my twin brother for, not having a father at our earlier years. So I feel blessed that my stepfather showed up in my life when he did, because if he didn't, I'm not sure I'd be sitting here right now. So
Wow.
he's an amazing man. I have 4 brothers, 3 sisters, and my father actually, there was 2 boys on my mother's side, 2 boys on my father's side, and then my father adopted 2 girls from Costa Rica and 1 from Korea. So we came from a very large family, and he was, if there was ever a saint in this world, he is one of them. So he's passed away a couple of years ago, but I speak to him all the time, and I thank him every single time for coming into my life when he did, because he probably saved my life. So that's my
Oh,
little 2 cents.
wow. Powerful. Powerful. Thank you all for sharing. Anybody else? Who in your life has influenced you the most and why?
Jennifer, I got a question.
Yeah.
If you can answer this,
Okay.
but due to the fact that the sharings have been related to parents, do you not, and I'm asking this question because my daughter was 5 when her dad passed away. I always thought, you know what? She's going to miss what I call the right or holistic steps of developing herself. I feel like she's going to have a void. I'm saying to this day, I don't think that she does, but can you share anything related to that? What your findings are?
Well, it's a good segue into what we're going to do with this and why I asked this. Remember when I talked about at the beginning, I want to talk about where we are empowered and where you all are empowered in the midst of where you are navigating on your journey? Have you ever considered how you are influencing others? And I bet if I asked each one of you, you would probably downplay. Oh, I'm not doing much. Oh, I'm not doing so, right? Am I right? Would most people say, maybe not? But I encourage you, please do not ever discount the power of your presence in people's lives. It could be a casual, you see a cashier in the grocery store, you ask them how they're doing that day. It could be something that's what we call simple, but yet you don't have any idea what that person might be struggling with. And maybe they need to be noticed that day. They need to see a smile and realize, oh, golly, okay, somebody does see me. You see, that's the power of presence. So please don't discount the power of your presence in people's lives. And Joan, to go with what you were asking, it's the same thing. I've often been told that we can have more spiritual children. You all can call them whatever you want, but they're more than physical, biological children. I've got a lot of spiritual children, a lot of girls that I have mentored through the years. Some of them call me Mom Jennifer, or whatever. And I maybe don't love them as like my blood, but I love them very close to being my daughters. And some of them, one of them in particular, is an orphan. And so both my husband and I are big influencers in her life. So I think just be mindful of that, to recognize that you all have got so much wisdom you all can share with other people. George mentioned a strong work ethic. You've got some information, wisdom, discernment that other people would love to hear about. So please don't discount when you've got little nuances of knowledge or wisdom that you can share with others, because you have been given a sphere of influence somewhere, whether it's with children, grandchildren, the neighbors' children, even adult people, and it doesn't have to always be children, but just people in general. So just please don't discount the power of your presence in other people's lives, because it's not always going to be our parents that are going to influence us the most. We would like it to be, but maybe it's not. So, and then also sometimes I'm often told, well, I don't know what to say if I'm with somebody when I talk about this power of presence. How many of you have ever experienced, and y'all can just raise your hand, how many of you have ever experienced, you're in the middle of something and a friend shows up and they don't say anything, they just hold your hand, or they don't hold your hand, they just sit there with you and just let you know by their presence that you're not alone. You know, have any of y'all ever experienced that? Yeah. I one time was with a patient, this is many years ago, in our cancer hospital, and the patient did not want a visit when I walked in and defined who I was. And I said, that's okay. I said, I am not here to push myself on you at all. But would you mind if I just sit down with you? We don't even have to talk. And they said, sure, come on in. So I pulled up a chair and I just sat next to him, and probably a good 5 minutes, we didn't say a word. But it was a very peaceful, just sitting there quietly together. And then she proceeds to just begin to talk. And she had just been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And she was a fairly young woman, young children, young husband. And I knew that going in there, which is why I didn't just turn around and leave, because I thought, I want her to know that she's not alone in this. And I ended up having a much longer visit than I normally would. But it was that power of presence. I wasn't going to push myself on her. I wasn't going to make her talk. I would have maybe sat there 5 more minutes and just said, I just want you to know you're not alone. If there's anything I can do to care for you, just let me know. So there are times that there are no words. We don't have to say anything. It's just a matter of being present with somebody, letting them know that they're not on this journey by themselves. And there's a lot of power in that presence. So thoughts before I move on?
Well, I had thought, other than my dad, one person that just influenced me quite a bit was Russell Glover. And I see Cynthia raising her hand also. Just by, he was ever present with so many people, such a powerful person. I just, to this day, miss him every day because he was a good friend. He was a mentor. He was just a lot of things. And he's why Cynthia and I are on the board and so passionate about Breathmatters because of him. He was just an unbelievable person. He was just an influence among people and helped so many people. Was amazing. Just one good
A
guy.
beautiful testimony of him. Cynthia, would you like to say anything about him?
I can unmute myself. Yeah, he really was. He taught me so much. I didn't meet him until I was probably in my 30s, and I lived across the street from him. And at that point, I'd lost both my mom and dad. And so Bill and my husband and I, we didn't know how to do anything around the house. And so, you know, if we needed something installed or something fixed, I would look over and I'd say, hey, Russell. And he'd say, you know what, I'm only gonna do it once. And sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I said, he said, I'm only going to do it once and you're going to do it with me. And that's how you're going to learn to do it. And you're never going to have to ask me to do that again. Now you're going to ask me something else and I'll show you how to do that too. But he was a teacher, you know, he wasn't just a doer. He was a teacher and he taught with love, everything he did.
Wow. Oh,
Wow.
what a beautiful testimony of his life.
He was one of those, what can I say, very direct. Once you got to know Russell, there was so much of a softness to him and a desire to help and teach others. But you had to sort of get to that point, and you had to get to that point to understand him. So,
And he make you cry, even
yeah, yeah. See, he and I, in the very beginning, we sort of butted heads a little bit because I thought, who does he think he is telling me what I'm going to do? I'm volunteering my time. Help me understand. And I began to understand. He just had a very different way of showing his passion for the love he had for Breath Matters. And it was just so commendable. This group just had an unbelievable leader.
Wow. And what's that saying that you can, talking about you teach someone you either give somebody fish or you teach them how to fish. He sounds like the kind that he would show you how to fish so that you could fish for your own food later.
absolutely.
You know, yeah, like when you said he was a teacher, direct, but teacher, but you know, wow. Wow. And you know, that actually is a neat segue into what I want to finish with before I have one final thing is, was what you all were saying about him is he sounds like he was a life giver. And what I want to talk about now is how I once was leading a book study back actually during COVID, a book by Max Lucado, and he said that our minds are like an airport, and we are our own air traffic controller. He said we are the ones who determine as these thoughts or planes filled with thoughts are flying around, we are the ones, the air traffic controller, who are going to decide which planes will land. And so he said, we let life-giving planes land or not? So when we think about where we are empowered in navigating the crazy times that we're in, is our thoughts control us a lot more than we often give them credit for. So it's just something to think about when we think of, are the thoughts that I'm thinking within my brain, am I allowing these planes to land that are life-giving or not? And then when we think about the power of presence, like what you are talking about with Russell, is my presence life-giving for other people or not? Now, I'm not going to say we're going to have a smile on our face every single day and life's going to be a bed of roses. I don't mean that. But at the same time, how am I going to be when I'm facing something and somebody's watching me or whatever? What is my presence going to be like? So again, it's just another thought, another imagery to think of is, what am I going to allow to land in my head on any given day? Is it life-giving or life-taking? And again, I'm not saying it's an easy process. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but I think it's something for us to be aware of. And then I have one final question I'd love for you all to answer before I do a guided imagery with you all. I asked Cynthia if she thought you all might enjoy that. She said yes. So I would love to, because I think we learn most when we share with each other. Are there any disciplines that each of you practice right now that help keep you grounded in the midst of disorder? And what are they? I'd love for y'all to share those.
I do several devotions every morning.
Okay. Any particular one that?
Well, one's a women's and one I do with my husband for husband and wives.
A gratitude journal.
Cynthia, would that be self-gratitude, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When my kids were little and I'd put them to bed at night, we'd say prayers, and then I'd say, tell me the very best thing that happened to you today.
Yes. I do that as well. Yeah.
And I got in the habit of doing that with them. And so, I mean, I like to start my day and end my day that way, just because some days can be better than others. And so I need to remember the good stuff and not concentrate on the bad stuff, because I'm not a good sleeper. So I feel like if I go to bed with something good, then it's going to make me go to sleep faster sometimes.
Like positive energy versus negative energy, right?
Exactly.
So you're giving yourself doses of positive energy in the morning and the afternoon. It tends to derail those negative thought mind loops that we tend to get in during stressful situations.
I do something that the laughter yoga coach taught us recently. He said, when there's something that you do every day, concentrate on one thing, whether it's starting your car, opening your door. Just choose one thing, and when you do it, laugh. And his Indian doctor, East Indian doctor, says that if you don't feel like laughing and you fake the laugh, it still has the same effect on your brain, which I thought was very interesting.
True.
So I, of course, chose whenever I open my book, since I read almost all the time, every day. I'm always, after I get done with the chore or something, or go for a walk, I'm opening my, so I'm laughing a good part of the day. So that's one ritual I started. The other one is this myhealthangel.com. It's a website for seniors, and they have different programs. They have like a trip to the museum. They have meditation, yoga. They have all every week. There's 3 or 4 different things that you can sign up for, and it's all free. And it's very funny.
What? What's it?
myhealthangel.com.
Okay.
For seniors, and it includes people from all over the country, and it's very hysterical when you see the ladies from the north are bringing briskets when somebody's sick, and the ladies from the south are bringing casseroles. So it's very funny. They even have a book club. And so recently they had a Tai Chi session on, and she did that session where you hold your hands in front of yourself and be still, and they magnetize.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. I can't do all the Tai Chi, but I did a lot and did the rest of it sitting down. And it was, so that magnetizing with your hands and centering yourself when something upsetting happens is very, very helpful. And that's something I've learned. Those 3 new things, really.
Wonderful. That does help to keep you grounded. That's excellent.
Yeah.
I did one time, I went to a chaplain's conference, and they were laughter yoga was the focus.
Oh.
I thought, oh my gosh, but you're right, Eileen. They made us lay on the floor and put our hands on our belly, and they said, just fake laugh. Well, you fake laugh, and eventually before the fake turns into something real. I mean, It was so funny. I never had experienced that before.
Yeah, I agree. Well, he has a service the third Sunday of every month for an hour. If anybody wants to see that, I can send his website information to you.
Who is
He's the guy we had. I'm trying to think of his name. He has a funny name. Don, do you remember? What was it, Cynthia?
Flash?
Yes, Slash. It's a derivative from his grandfather's name of a Polish name. I can't remember it right now, but yeah.
I'll tell you a little secret, Eileen. He is a fantastic reupholsterer.
Oh,
Not
really?
only can he laughter yoga, but he can reupholster like you wouldn't believe.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
He said
But
that
you
that's
said-
what he does. Yeah, I didn't hear how good he was. That's great, Cynthia.
Anybody else want to share anything any practices that they're currently using that keep them grounded in the midst of disorder?
Prayer many times throughout the day. Many times throughout the day. And when I do that, and when I say control freak, when I do let up with that control, it is amazing how fabulous life feels. It feels free.
Most definitely. But that too takes self-awareness, Joan.
Absolutely.
There you go. We are all in progress, is like I like to say.
Yeah, that is true.
Have any of you all ever done a guided imagery before?
Yes.
Yes, didn't we do that?
Like a type of you can call it meditation. I know when I was in the hospital, we would do this I would do this often with patients. Now this one, some people feel okay, some people don't feel comfortable with them. And so I am fine with whatever you all feel comfortable with. You're welcome to keep your eyes open. You can close your eyes. The only thing I ask is that you get in a comfortable position, because I really want you to try to relax through this. Now, I don't want you to wonder, Jennifer, where in the world are you taking us? This is going to be about 10 to 15 minutes long. Okay. And I will speak slowly because I really want you to try to get in where the imagery of where I want to take you. And actually where I want to take you is up near where my daughter in Canada lives.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's go to Canada, everybody.
Yay.
Yeah. I encourage you to close your eyes if you can, or if you want to lie down or sit someplace safely in a chair. And I want you to picture yourself. You're in a small port town at the most easterly point of North America, bordered by the North Atlantic Ocean. It's right before dawn, and there's a crispness in the air. As you walk, you feel a strong breeze blowing through your hair. You feel moisture in the breeze as it carries the sea air across the island. You inhale deeply and smell the saltiness of the air. You're walking up a well-worn path toward a lighthouse and some cliffs that overlook the ocean. You gaze out at the ocean and see shipping vessels flooded with lights. Imagine, if you will, yourself out on one of those ships in the middle of this vast body of water, surrounded by impenetrable darkness. In this darkness, your eyes strain to see the water beyond the sides of the ship. But you lift up your head, and off in the distance, you see the ever-present glow of a lighthouse. This lighthouse has been the keeper of the harbor for decades and has guided many shipping vessels away from the dangers of the shoreline. It looks regal as it stands on its perch atop the cliff. It's consistent and constant, present through sunshine and storms, darkness and light. Consider what this lighthouse represents to you. Who or what is a consistent presence through your stormy days, through your dark night of the soul seasons? Ponder how you are a lighthouse to those who find themselves navigating the dark waters that bring them crashing into your shore. You sense gratitude for those sacred moments when someone in need is placed in your presence. You have a sense of fulfillment for those moments when your inner light is shared with others. You draw yourself back to the place you are standing, and you feel your feet firmly placed on this well-worn path. You continue to walk toward the lighthouse and the top of the cliff. As you are walking, you hear the water crashing against the unseen rocks below. These symphonic sounds of nature infuse through you. Something within the sound of the water clapping its hands calls to you. Although feeling unsure of the height of these cliffs and how far below the water is, you open your spirit up to what the waves want to reveal. Something other than the normal movement of this massive body of water. You feel a connection, a comfort in this message and its meaning to you. You wonder how it parallels all the various moving parts in your own life. They are all intertwined and woven together to reflect the seasons of your journey. Some moments, some seasons seem to crash into you, much like these waves crash into the cliffs, while some seasons seem gentler. You are drawn to this expansive space filled with water, land, air. You tune into the constancy of the waves' rhythm, to the idea that they seem to not have a care in the world while at the mercy of the tides, current, the wind and moon, rhythm continues. The expanse of this place makes you feel so small, yet not insignificant. Woven together with the sun, breeze, and sound of the ocean, you feel connected to something far greater. There is beauty within these sounds. A sense of calm and serenity flows over you. This space seems untouched by the rest of the world. It feels unusually safe, secure, not like what you're used to feeling. So you continue walking toward the sound of the ocean until you reach the edge of the majestic rock cliff. The beauty takes your breath away. Looking out, you see the massive expanse of the North Atlantic. To the left, you see a cove where cliffs meet huge rock beds at the water's edge. Pause to watch the waves crash up against the rocks and are amazed to see the water is beautifully clear with distinct blues and greens, much like Caribbean water. To the right is the lighthouse, standing tall and proud as it alerts ocean liners and shipping vessels of the rugged coastline through the faithful presence of its undying light. Beyond the lighthouse, the sun has risen, but decided to hide itself behind some clouds. You notice spectacular sun rays projecting themselves through the clouds, reaching forth toward the ocean. A light show. You stand in awe at the beauty that surrounds you, and you breathe in deeply. You consider life above the ocean and the life teeming below. You see life everywhere. You breathe in the peace in the midst of the vastness, the mystery, yet the predictability of creation. The consistency of nature's presence and rhythm, the great expanse that is before you, give you hope. Hope that there is purpose in all of creation and in you. Something beyond yourself, something far bigger than you. You embrace the truth that no matter what chaos or confusion is behind or before you, you are not forgotten, and that there remains a certain rhythm flowing through you in the midst of it. You are a gift made for a purpose. You pause. You bask in this reality. You soak in the warmth of the sunshine as it crawls out from under the clouds covering. You breathe in the salty air and relish the sound of the breeze blowing, the waves crashing against the rocks. You allow yourself to connect deeply with creation and you embrace the truth that you do matter. With these tender reminders, you turn to walk back down the path. The pace is slow but intentional, making each step count as you feel the earth beneath your feet. As you get closer to the path's beginning, each breath fills your mind with wisdom, opens your heart toward restoration. You have a clearer perspective than when you walked into this space. You know that you are making a difference in your corner of the world, no matter what happens. You realize your presence is beautiful and meaningful, and that you are treasured. Consider what this means to you in the current season. I encourage you to take some cleansing breaths. Wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Stretch and open your eyes when you're ready to return to this space. Any thoughts, anything you were feeling during that?
Calmness.
Oh.
I actually fell asleep, but I was still listening. Or was that just a high element of calmness? Mhm.
It sure helped my eyes a lot. They aren't as stinging quite like they were before, but I think I nodded off also. Thank you.
Well, you all, thank you for having me here today. For the privilege to care for you all and love on y'all a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.